The city was alive with its usual chaos, cars honking and people rushing through crowded streets. High above, in one of the tallest buildings, a billionaire watched the city move from his office window. He had everything a person could want: wealth, power, and influence. Yet, despite all this, there was an emptiness he could not ignore. His business empire thrived, but his family life had quietly crumbled over the years. He had become so consumed by work that he barely noticed his daughter growing up. When he did see her, it was through short visits filled with formality and distance. Never real connection. One afternoon, feeling restless and needing a break from the sterile environment of his office, he decided to take a walk outside, incognito. He slipped on a cap and sunglasses and blended into the crowd, becoming just another face in the city. The streets were noisy and lively, the perfect place to escape the suffocating world of boardrooms and contracts. As he wandered, he passed small cafes, shops, and office buildings. Observing people going about their daily lives, he entered a small, bustling cafe, the kind where baristas called out orders and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. He wanted to sit quietly in a corner, away from recognition, to simply watch life happen. As he ordered a cup of coffee and took a seat, he noticed a young woman moving swiftly between the tables. She carried trays of food and drinks with a grace that suggested both efficiency and care. She smiled at customers, responded politely to complaints, and seemed to handle every situation with calm professionalism. There was a light in her eyes, a mix of resilience and determination, that caught his attention immediately. Something about her seemed familiar. He squinted slightly, trying to place the feeling. Then, as she passed by a window, he caught a glimpse of her face reflected in the glass. Time seemed to freeze. The features were unmistakable. The eyes, the expression, the subtle gestures, all of it screamed a truth he could not believe. She was his daughter, the daughter he had not seen properly in years, the daughter he had failed to spend time with, was working here as a maid. He felt a mix of shock, guilt, and sadness crash over him. He had imagined her living a life of comfort, possibly attending university or exploring career opportunities that aligned with her talents. But here she was, serving strangers and working hard for minimal pay. He watched her for a few more moments, his heart aching. Every detail, the way she moved, the polite nods to customers, the slight tired slump in her shoulders made the reality painfully clear. He left the cafe without approaching her. Stepping back into the noisy street, his mind racing. How had he not noticed earlier? How had life turned out this way for her, while he focused only on wealth and status? Memories of her childhood flooded, in her small hands reaching for him when he was too busy to notice. The birthdays he missed, the school events he skipped. He had been there physically, but emotionally, he had been absent. And now he realized the consequences of his absence. For the next few days, he could not stop thinking about her. He visited the cafe a few more times, staying in the background, observing from a distance. He learned small details about her life from the staff. She lived in a modest apartment, worked long hours, and was determined to be independent. Every discovery added to the weight of guilt on his shoulders. He wanted to reach out, to apologize, to help, but he did not want to embarrass her or make her feel patronized. He had to find the right approach. He began to understand the strength she had developed over the years. She had learned to face the world on her own, to deal with challenges without relying on anyone. She had grown resilient, patient, and self-sufficient. Qualities he had never taught her because he had never been fully present. Observing her, he realized that despite her hardships, she had become a remarkable young woman. And yet, she had been forced to navigate life without the guidance and support he should have provided. One evening, after leaving the cafe, he walked through the city streets alone, reflecting on his own choices. He thought about the long hours spent in meetings, the deals closed at the expense of family dinners, and the vacations he had taken without her. The realization that his absence had a direct impact on her life hit him harder than anything in business ever had. He had built an empire, but had failed in the one place that mattered most, being a father. He decided he could not ignore. He needed to find a way to make amends, to be there for her without taking away her independence. But how could he do it? How could he approach her without making her feel small or indebted to him? He knew he had to be careful, to respect her life choices while offering support. The thought of losing another chance to connect terrified him. In the following days, he began small, almost invisible acts of help. He arranged for some of her apartment bills to be covered anonymously, ensuring she had a little relief from financial stress. He discreetly made improvements to her workplace, checking on safety standards and making sure she was treated fairly. She noticed these changes and felt gratitude, though she had no idea who was behind them. Watching her respond to these small acts of kindness, he felt a growing sense of hope. Yet he knew this could not last forever. He wanted more than to be a hidden benefactor. He wanted to reconnect with her in a genuine way. He imagined the moment he would reveal himself, the words he would say, and the emotions that would follow. The fear of rejection was real, but he knew he had to face it. He had to show her that despite the years of absence, he was willing to change, willing to be the parent she needed. Late one night, he sat alone in his office, staring at the city lights. He reflected on the irony of life, how success in the business world had left him empty in the personal world. The discovery of his daughter as a maid had shaken him to his core, forcing him to confront the consequences of his choices. He realized that wealth and power meant nothing without connection, without the ability to love and be loved in return. The next morning, he resolved to plan carefully. He would approach her with humility without grand gestures or demands. He would listen, truly listen, to her feelings and respect her choices. He wanted her to know that he saw her not just as his daughter, but as an independent, capable young woman. The journey ahead would not be easy, but he felt a spark of determination. He was ready to take the first step toward healing the bond he had neglected for so long. The city around him continued its hustle, unaware of the silent transformation happening in the billionaire's heart, but he knew that his life and hers were about to change in ways neither of them could yet imagine. For several days, the billionaire struggled with his thoughts. Every time he saw his daughter in the cafe, working tirelessly, he felt a mix of admiration and guilt. She moved with a quiet strength, interacting with customers politely, handling complaints without losing her composure, and yet there was a tiredness in her eyes that he could not ignore. He had imagined her life differently, filled with comfort and opportunities. But reality had shown him how wrong he had been. She had built her life with her own hands, relying on nobody but herself. He wanted to speak to her, to apologize for the years he had been absent, but he also feared how she would react. Would she be angry? Would she refuse to listen? The thought of rejection was terrifying, yet he knew he could not turn away. He had failed her once, and now he had to find a way to make things right. The idea of approaching her directly felt too overwhelming, so he decided to observe from a distance, learning more about her daily life. Every morning, he found himself in the cafe, sitting quietly, unnoticed. He learned the rhythm of her day, the way she balanced the rush of customers with precision, how she helped coworkers without being asked, and how she remained polite even when some patrons were rude. Her resilience became more apparent with every observation. He began to see her not as a child who needed him, but as a capable young woman navigating life on her own terms. He also started asking discreet questions from the cafe staff, careful not to reveal his identity. He learned that she lived in a small apartment, not far from the cafe, and that she worked long hours just to make ends meet. Despite the hardships, she never complained. She had developed an inner strength that made him both proud and regretful at the same time. He wished he had been there to guide her, to protect her from struggles he could have softened. Now he realized that his absence had forced her to grow stronger, but at a cost he could not ignore. The billionaire began reflecting on his past actions and choices. He remembered the early years when he was focused solely on building his empire, thinking that providing wealth was enough to show love. He had missed birthdays, school events, and countless small moments that had mattered far more than any financial support. The realization struck him deeply. He had been successful in business, but had failed completely as a father. Seeing his daughter as a maid was a painful reminder of what he had neglected. and he knew he could not undo the past, only try to repair the present. He also noticed the pride in her work. She treated her job with respect, never cutting corners, and even went out of her way to help customers feel comfortable. It was clear she had learned the value of hard work and self-reliance. Bahia saw signs of exhaustion. Her posture sometimes slumped. Her eyes carried a quiet sadness, and there were moments when she seemed to pause, as if taking a deep breath to steady herself. He wanted to reach out and help, but he needed to do it carefully, in a way that would not make her feel patronized or obligated. One afternoon, he decided to test the waters in a small way. He left a generous tip anonymously, enough to cover a week's worth of groceries. The next day, he noticed her looking around, puzzled and thankful, trying to figure out who had left the gift. Seeing her reaction gave him a strange sense of hope. He realized that small, thoughtful gestures could make a difference without intruding into her life. He began planning how to help her gradually, ensuring that she felt supported but still independent. As he continued observing her, he started noticing more details about her personality. She was polite but firm, kind but strong. She had learned to stand her ground, yet she was never arrogant. She carried herself with dignity, even when faced with challenging customers or stressful situations. He felt a deep admiration for the young woman she had become. It only deepened his guilt for not being there during her formative years. He also reflected on the moments when he had tried to connect with her in the past. Those few times had been awkward and distant. He had approached her with the mindset of a wealthy parent providing for a child, rather than understanding her needs and emotions. He realized now that money and gifts could never replace time, attention, and emotional presence. The more he understood her life, the more he regretted every missed opportunity, every moment when he had chosen work over family. One evening, as the cafe was closing, he stayed back to watch her leave. She walked briskly, carrying her bag, tired but determined. He followed at a distance, making sure she got home safely. Watching her climb the stairs to her small apartment, he felt a pang of sadness. She was living a modest life despite having been born into wealth. She had chosen to carve her own path, and yet he felt a strong urge to step in, to offer guidance and support. But he knew he had to do it carefully, respecting her independence and her choices. Over the next week, he continued his quiet observations and small gestures. He anonymously paid for a few repairs in her apartment, ensuring her living conditions were comfortable. He made sure the cafe staff were treated well and that her work environment was safe. She noticed these improvements and felt grateful, though she had no idea who was behind them. Each small act strengthened his resolve to eventually reveal himself. But he wanted to do it in a way that honored her independence. He also began reflecting on the lessons he had learned. He realized that true wealth was not measured by money or possessions, but by the relationships and connections he had neglected. His daughter had grown resilient and capable without him. But he now understood the importance of being present, of offering guidance without control, and of listening more than speaking. He had a chance to rebuild their relationship, not as a wealthy parent imposing his will, but as someone willing to understand and support her as she was. The billionaire started imagining the conversation he would have with her. He pictured himself apologizing sincerely for the years he had been absent, acknowledging her struggles, and expressing his desire to be part of her life in a meaningful way. He knew it would not be easy. She might reject him, or she might feel hurt and betrayed. But he also knew that the risk was worth it. He could not change the past, but he could influence the future. One morning, he saw her helping a young child at the cafe, showing patience and kindness. He realized that she had learned empathy and compassion through her experiences, qualities he admired deeply. It became clear to him that she was not just surviving, she was thriving in her own way, and he knew that he had a role to play in supporting her growth, but it had to be done with humility and care. The billionaire made a silent promise to himself. He would approach her with respect, not as a figure of authority, but as a parent willing to learn and change. He would offer help without imposing it, listen without judgment, and support her without undermining her independence. He knew it would take time and patience, but he was ready. Seeing her struggle yet persist had changed him, made him realize the value of presence. attention, and love beyond wealth. As he walked through the streets that evening, he felt a mixture of anticipation and fear. He was about to step into unfamiliar territory, facing emotions and challenges he had avoided for years. But he also felt hope, a belief that it was not too late to reconnect, to show his daughter that he cared, and to finally take responsibility for the role he had neglected. The city moved around him, unaware of the quiet transformation taking place in one man's heart, a man determined to rewrite the story of his relationship with the daughter he had once failed. The billionaire had spent weeks watching from a distance, quietly learning about his daughter's life and struggles. Every small gesture of hers, her polite smile to customers, ways she helped a coworker without being asked, and the careful attention she gave to every task deepened his admiration and guilt. He had seen enough to know he could no longer remain in the shadows. He had to find a way to connect with her, to show that he cared without overwhelming her or taking away her independence. He started thinking about how to approach her carefully. He did not want to make her feel uncomfortable or force a relationship. He wanted her to feel safe, respected, and valued. For the first time, he realized that being a parent was not about wealth or gifts. It was about understanding, patience, and presence. He wanted to do more than just provide for her. He wanted to support her emotionally, to be someone she could rely on without feeling pressured or judged. Over the next few days, he took small, anonymous steps to help her life improve. He arranged for her apartment to receive a few necessary repairs, ensuring it was safe and comfortable. He discreetly made improvements at her workplace, making sure her environment was fair and supportive. She noticed the changes and felt grateful, though she had no idea who was behind them. Watching her react to these acts of kindness gave him a sense of hope and purpose. He realized that helping her in ways that respected her autonomy was the right approach. One evening, as she left work, he decided to follow her discreetly, ensuring she got home safely. Seeing her navigate the streets alone, carrying her bag and balancing exhaustion with determination, made him feel both proud and sorrowful. He wanted to step in to offer guidance and support, but he also wanted to respect the independence she had fought so hard to maintain. This delicate balance weighed heavily on him, but he knew he had to be careful, could no longer let fear of rejection keep him from trying to connect with her. He began planning a more direct way to reach out. But without overwhelming her, he considered leaving a note or arranging a meeting in a neutral place, somewhere she would feel comfortable and safe. The challenge was how to reveal himself without making her feel indebted or forced to accept him. He spent hours thinking through different scenarios, imagining her reactions and planning his words carefully. His goal was to express genuine care and apology, while respecting her independence and achievements. As he continued observing her, noticed the subtle ways she had grown strong over the years. She carried herself with dignity, even when faced with rude customers or difficult situations. Her voice was firm, yet polite, her movements precise, yet gentle. He realized that her resilience was a reflection of her determination and character, not a failure of the life he had provided. She had become a remarkable young woman on her own, and he needed to honor that in every step he took to reconnect. He also reflected on his own mistakes and shortcomings as a parent. He remembered the birthdays he missed, the school events he skipped, and the conversations he had avoided because he was too busy with work. He realized that money and success had blinded him to what really mattered, being present in her life. The thought of how much he had missed made his heart ache, but it also strengthened his resolve to do better now, no matter how difficult it might be. One day he decided to test the waters more directly. He left an anonymous gift at her apartment, a small token of support that would make her daily life easier. She found it and was both surprised and thankful, trying to figure out who had helped her. Watching her reaction, he felt a warmth and connection he had not experienced in years. It became clear that small, thoughtful gestures could build trust and open the door for future interactions without taking away her independence. He also started to see her personality more clearly. She was independent, proud, and kind, yet cautious. She had learned to face challenges head-on, and she did so with grace and patience. She was not someone to be taken care of in the traditional sense, and he realized that true support meant empowering her, not controlling her life. This understanding shifted his approach from one of providing help to one of guiding and supporting with respect. Every evening, he reflected on the plan he was forming. He imagined the moment he would reveal himself, the words he would say, and the emotions they would both feel. He knew it would not be easy. She might be angry, hurt, or distrustful. But he also understood that he had to take the risk. He could no longer remain a silent observer. The thought of finally reconnecting with her filled him with both fear and hope. He began to prepare himself emotionally for the meeting. He wanted to be patient, to listen before speaking, and to accept whatever emotions she had toward him. He realized that his role now was not to demand forgiveness, but to offer understanding, love, and support. The journey ahead would require humility and patience, qualities he had neglected for years, but now understood were essential. One afternoon, he saw her helping an elderly customer at the cafe, showing patience and care despite the long day. He felt a deep sense of pride and admiration. She'd become someone who could face challenges with resilience and kindness, and he wanted to support that growth without overshadowing it. He understood that his presence in her life now had to be different from what it could have been in the past. He had to earn her trust and respect through actions, not just words. The billionaire spent the next few days quietly arranging the details for a direct meeting. He chose a small, neutral cafe where she could feel comfortable and unpressured. He rehearsed his words, focusing on expressing genuine apology and care. He wanted her to know that he saw her, not as someone who needed to be rescued, but as an independent, capable woman. His heart was full of anticipation, but also a quiet fear. He knew this moment could change everything. As the day approached, he reflected on the lessons he had learned. He had realized that love was not about wealth, status, or control. It was about presence, empathy, and understanding. His daughter had grown into a remarkable woman without him, but he now had the chance to be a part of her life in a meaningful way. The journey to reconnect would not be simple, but he was ready to face it. Armed with humility, patience, and genuine care. Finally, the day arrived. He arrived early at the cafe, nervous yet determined. He saw her enter working as usual, moving with confidence and grace. The sight of her filled him with both admiration and guilt. He knew that the conversation ahead would be difficult, but he also understood that it was necessary. The opportunity to reconnect, to offer support without taking away her independence, was finally here. And in that moment, he made a silent promise to himself. He would do everything he could to honor her strength, respect her choices, and rebuild the bond that had been lost for so many years. The day of the meeting had finally arrived. The billionaire arrived early at the small cafe, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. He had watched his daughter countless times, yet now he had to face her directly. He wanted to approach her carefully, to show his presence without overwhelming her, to express regret without making her feel pressured. The hours of preparation ran through his mind, every emotion he planned, every emotion he hoped to convey. When she entered, she moved as usual, carrying herself with confidence and grace. She greeted the staff politely, helped a customer with patience, and seemed unaware of his presence. Watching her, he felt a deep admiration. She was the daughter he had missed, but also someone he was beginning to understand in a completely new way. Her independence, resilience, and quiet strength left him humbled. He took a deep breath and approached her, hoping to convey sincerity and care. As he gently called her name, she turned, surprise flashing across her face. Her eyes widened, and for a moment there was silence. She did not recognize him immediately, and that hesitation was understandable. She had lived her life independently, without the involvement of the father who had once been distant. The billionaire softly revealed his identity, explaining who he was and why he had remained distant for so many years. The words were heartfelt, and his tone conveyed genuine remorse. At first she reacted with disbelief. Her mind struggled to process the revelation. The man standing before her was the father who had been absent for years, yet now he was here, admitting mistakes and seeking connection. She felt a rush of conflicting emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, and a small spark of hope. She wanted answers, but she also needed space to process what she had just learned. He spoke gently, apologizing for his absence and acknowledging the pain it had caused her. He did not try to justify his actions or blame circumstances. Instead, he focused on understanding her experiences and emotions. He asked about her life, listened to her struggles, and accepted her feelings without argument. For the first time, he realized that true connection required listening, empathy, and humility, rather than wealth or influence. She spoke about the challenges she had faced, the long hours at work, the independence she had developed, and the pride she took in managing her life without relying on anyone. She expressed hurt over his absence, but also a desire to see if their relationship could be rebuilt. He listened with patience, understanding that this was the moment he had long anticipated, but also a delicate one that required care and respect. Their conversation grew emotional. She shared memories of her childhood, moments when she had hoped he would be there, and the quiet disappointment of his absence. He admitted his mistakes and the regret he carried for every missed opportunity. The exchange was raw, real, and honest. There was no pretense, no facadage, just two people confronting years of distance, hurt, and unspoken emotions. He emphasized that his intention was not to control or interfere in her life, but to support her, to be present in a way that honored her independence. He acknowledged the resilience she had developed and praised her for the strength and determination she had shown. This recognition was important to her. She had faced life challenges alone and needed to know that he truly saw her for who she had become. As the conversation continued, they began to find common ground. The anger and disappointment started to soften as understanding grew. She realized that he was sincere, willing to change, and genuinely committed to supporting her without judgment. He realized that reconnecting would require patience and consistent effort, but he was ready to take that responsibility. After hours of talking, they agreed to start slowly, taking small steps to rebuild trust. He promised to respect her autonomy, offer guidance when asked, and support her in ways that empowered her rather than overshadowed her. She agreed to let him be part of her life, cautiously and on her terms. The agreement was not just about words, it was about mutual understanding and the willingness to try. Despite past mistakes, leaving the cafe that day, they both felt a mixture of relief and hope. The air between them was lighter, the tension eased, and the possibility of a genuine relationship began to take shape. They knew that rebuilding trust would take time, but the first step had been taken. For the billionaire, this moment marked a turning point. He had faced the consequences of his absence and was ready to act differently. In the following days, he focused on showing support through consistent, thoughtful actions. He helped with practical matters when she asked, offered advice without pressure, and respected her decisions. She, in turn, gradually allowed him to be present, sharing her life experiences and seeking guidance. The cautious steps they took were meaningful, each interaction building a foundation of trust and understanding. He observed her continuing resilience and independence, and he felt a deep sense of pride. She had faced life's difficulties with courage and determination, and now he could be there to provide support and mentorship. The dynamic between them shifted from one of absence and regret to connection and partnership. The billionaire understood that wealth could not buy love or repair broken relationships. But empathy, presence, and sincere effort could create meaningful bonds. Their relationship continued to grow as they navigated challenges together. They shared moments of laughter, mutual support, and understanding. She began to trust him, not as a figure of authority or wealth, but as someone who genuinely cared for her well-being and respected her choices. He learned to listen more than speak, to value her perspective, and to support her in ways that strengthened rather than controlled. The billionaire reflected on the transformation in his life and in their relationship. Todd realized that reconnecting with his daughter had taught him more about love, humility, and empathy than any business success ever had. He had learned that being a parent was not about providing material comfort, but about being present, understanding, and supportive in ways that empowered the child. His approach had shifted from authority and wealth to patience, care, and genuine connection. The daughter, too, felt the difference. She saw that he was sincere, that he respected her independence, and that he wanted to be part of her life without imposing control. She felt a sense of relief and cautious optimism. The walls she had built over years of independence began to soften, allowing for trust and connection to grow. Both of them understood that the journey ahead would require patience and effort, but the first steps had been taken, and that was what mattered most. By the end of their meeting, there was a sense of new beginnings. The past could not be changed, but the future was open. They had faced painful truths, expressed emotions honestly, committed to rebuilding their relationship with respect and understanding. The billionaire felt a sense of fulfillment he had never experienced in business deals or financial success. He realized that true achievement lay in human connection, love, and the ability to support someone genuinely as they parted that day. There was a promise unspoken but understood. They would continue to rebuild, to learn, and to grow together. The path ahead would have challenges, but they were ready to face them as a team. The billionaire had taken the step he had long avoided, and in doing so, had opened the door to a meaningful, authentic relationship with the daughter he had once failed to be present for. The moment marked a turning point, one that would shape the rest of their lives in profound and lasting ways. In the weeks that followed their first heartfelt conversation, the billionaire and his daughter cautiously began rebuilding their relationship. Each day was a balance between giving space and showing care. He made sure to respect her independence, never imposing himself, while she slowly began allowing him to be part of her life. Their interactions were small but meaningful. From shared coffees to conversations about her dreams, challenges, and daily life, the foundation of trust they had begun laying was growing stronger. Both could feel the shift. He was careful in his actions, understanding that support did not mean control. When she faced difficulties at work, he offered advice only when she asked. He helped find resources for her studies and career growth, but never dictated her choices. This approach surprised her. She had expected a parent who would either judge or try to take over. Instead, she found someone genuinely interested in her well-being, someone who acknowledged her strengths and her right to make her own decisions. For the daughter, this new relationship was both challenging and healing. She had carried years of hurt and independence, believing she had to face life alone. Allowing her father back into her life required courage and trust, which she gave slowly. She tested him, sharing small parts of her life, seeing if he would respect her space and decisions. Each time he did, her walls softened further. She realized he had changed, not just in words, but in actions. And this gave her hope that their bond could be meaningful and lasting. The billionaire watched her grow even more in these weeks, noticing details that he had missed before. Her resilience was matched by kindness. She cared deeply for those around her, always ready to help without expecting anything in return. He admired the way she handled both challenges and triumphs. And he knew she had become a remarkable young woman because of her strength and determination. He also reflected on how much he had learned from her, understanding the true meaning of patience, humility, and empathy. One afternoon, as they walked through a nearby park, they spoke about the past openly. She shared stories from her teenage years, recounting moments when she had felt alone, moments when she had wished for his presence, and even moments of anger toward him. He listened carefully without interrupting or defending himself. He admitted his failures fully, expressing regret for the years he had missed. This honest exchange allowed them to acknowledge their past without letting it define their future. They also spoke about dreams and aspirations. She confided in him about her career ambitions, the challenges she faced, and the hopes she held for the future. He offered guidance, sharing his experiences, providing practical advice, while making it clear that the choices were hers to make. This balance of support without control strengthened their bond and allowed them to collaborate as partners rather than a traditional parent-child dynamic. As days turned into weeks, small moments of shared joy and connection began to appear. They celebrated little successes together, like her finishing a challenging project at work or reaching a personal milestone. He listened attentively to her stories, laughed at her humor, and offered comfort when she faced disappointments. These moments, though simple, were powerful in rebuilding. a relationship that had been fractured for so long. The billionaire also took time to reflect on his own growth. He realized that reconnecting with his daughter had changed him profoundly. He had learned the importance of presence over wealth, empathy over authority, and support over control. He understood that being a parent was not just about providing for someone financially, but about nurturing, listening, and empowering them. These lessons were invaluable, and he felt grateful for the opportunity to make amends. For the daughter, the change in her father was equally meaningful. She saw his sincere effort, his patience, and his willingness to learn from past mistakes. She realized that people could change when they truly wanted to. And this gave her hope not only for their relationship, but also for her own future interactions with others. She felt seen and valued, not just as his daughter, but as an independent individual, capable of making her own choices. Their relationship continued to deepen over time. He became someone she could rely on for guidance, support, and encouragement without fear of judgment or control. They developed routines that balanced closeness with independent shared meals, occasional outings, and heartfelt conversations. Each interaction reinforced trust and understanding, building a strong foundation for a lasting relationship. One evening, as they sat together after a long day, she expressed gratitude for his presence in her life. She acknowledged the efforts he had made to respect her independence while offering support. He, in turn, expressed pride in the person she had become, praising her resilience, kindness, and determination. The exchange was simple yet profound, highlighting the transformation of their relationship from distance and regret to connection and mutual respect. As months passed, their bond became stronger. They faced challenges together, celebrated achievements, and shared experiences that created lasting memories. The billionaire found joy in witnessing her growth and independence, knowing that he could contribute positively without overshadowing her. She, in turn, felt supported and empowered. Understanding that her father was now a partner in her life rather than a distant figure from the past, through this journey, both realized that true connection required patience, humility, and consistent effort. The billionaire learned that wealth alone could not repair relationships, and the daughter discovered that trust could be rebuilt with sincere actions and respect. Together, they navigated the complexities of reconnecting after years of distance, creating a relationship that was authentic, meaningful, and human-centric. In the end, they both understood that the past, with all its mistakes and missed opportunities, could not be changed. But the present and future were theirs to shape. The billionaire had taken the courageous steps to acknowledge his failures, support his daughter, and rebuild their bond. She had allowed herself to open her heart, trust him, and accept his presence in a way that honored her independence. The result was a relationship stronger than either could have imagined, built not on wealth or control, but on love, understanding, and respect. The story concluded with a sense of hope and new beginnings. The billionaire and his daughter had faced the consequences of the past, embraced the present, and looked forward to a future filled with connection, support, and mutual growth. Their journey was a testament to the power of empathy, patience, and genuine human connection. They had discovered that even after years of distance and hurt, relationships could be healed, trust could be rebuilt, and love could flourish in the most human and meaningful ways.